Good morning, everyone. So I'm pre-recording this for you because we're going camping at Carr Lake this weekend and I'm super excited about it, but I'm also a little nervous that I might have a lot of technical difficulties. So I'm a problem solver, so I wanted to jump ahead and solve a few problems that could pop up for myself while we have our awesome outdoor adventure. Avoiding road hazards. And yesterday we started talking about what happens after we crash, because crashes and road hazards and detours and getting lost are inevitable parts of this journey. And we've got to get clear about our emotions and the stories we tell ourselves. We've got to reckon with these before we can move on to the next step in rising strong, which is the rumble. So I'm going to use myself as an example as we start talking about the rumble, because I have identified through the story, my story, that I have an internal dialogue that says nothing is ever good enough. And in many situations during a crash, that turns into I'm not good enough, which then starts to turn into all these other emotions, which then turn into action. So now that I know that about myself, I'm able to recognize all my emotional responses and triggers to that feeling. So now we can rumble. And this is where we get honest about the stories we tell ourselves. We need to reality check the narrative. I love that statement in the book. We have to rumble with these emotions to go from our first initial responses, which for me is always anger and defensiveness, to a deeper understanding of our thoughts and feelings and behaviors behind it. So it's really the rumble that cultivates that wholehearted living that she talks about in her books. And this is what's going to inspire real change for us. So she wants us to start with thinking about the rumble with 3 questions. What more do I need to learn and understand about the situation? What more do I need to learn and understand about the other players in the story? And what more do I need to learn and understand about myself? She goes on to explain that our brains need stories and will often make up one if there is a lack of data. That's the crazy part. Our brains release dopamine when we recognize complete patterns. Stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So we will fill in those gaps because the stories we tell ourselves are ones that want to keep us safe, keep us comfortable, and self-protect. So the aim, the ultimate goal of going through the rumble is to really be vulnerable and get uncertain about those feelings as you explore what you tell yourself in those moments. So we know that most of our thoughts and emotions during a crash, during a road hazard moment, come from the conspiracies and what she calls confabulations that we tell ourselves. We make up to keep us safe. So a confabulation are lies that are honestly told. I love that. I love that word. But we must not allow what she calls unconscious storytelling to become our default, which I think we can get into a trap of a lot of times. So in order to rise strong after a crash, we've got to be able to capture these first draft stories. So those initial responses, those initial feelings, and write them down. And allow all your voices and all your vision and all your childlike feelings, throw a temper tantrum on that piece of paper. Let that flow through you. This is your story and your emotions. This is your first draft. You get to put in it whatever you want. This isn't something somebody else is going to read. This is for you to sort out how you feel, right? And there is scientific data, everyone, that proves Writing 15 to 20 minutes a day improves your overall health. It boosts your immune system, reduces anxiety, depressive symptoms, and so much more. So I've shared how important journaling is to me. And if you haven't started yet, this would be another call to action. But writing is something that comes so natural to me because I've always done it. And I always know too that my first drafts are never ever as good as the final copy, right? So Brene uses 6 prompts to help you get started in writing your first draft of your story for whatever situation you're in. In the first statement, which I love, is the story I'm making up is. And this is powerful, and I want you to get used to this phrase. And then write down your emotions, how your body is feeling, what you're thinking, what your beliefs are, and what your actions want to be. And get authentic. Most of my stories start with me wanting to throat punch someone or throw something across the room, guys. Like, there's some violence in it. But writing out all of my emotions and all of my feelings, even to the point, like, I'm so angry I can hear the blood rushing through my ears, or I get this little, like, vein that pops and then my eye starts twitching, right? So, because if I don't get it all out on paper, I'm going to end up taking all that out on the people I love the most, which is usually my children or my significant other. And that's not fair to them either. So in the process of rumbling and writing the first draft is about capturing what you're telling yourself while you're going through the crash. And a true rumble of a first draft should affect the way you feel, think, and act. It should cover your whole self. Some topics to think about as you rumble, so you make sure you're really digging deep. We're getting past the initial to the really deep feelings in the bottom of the issue. So grief, vulnerability, failure, blame, accountability, disappointment, expectation, resentment, fear, nostalgia, boundaries, labels, perfectionism, shame, heartbreak, criticism, and there's more and more. But those dig deeper, scratch the surface of these emotions. This is a great checklist, and this has helped me get more clear on the stories I'm telling myself in each situation. And using the phrase, the story I'm making up is such a good way to begin sharing your feelings with others, because it's helpful in multiple ways. First of all, you're getting honest. So it opens you up and it gives you a chance to pause and reflect before having a conversation. And then it gives you permission to speak honestly. And it's very disarming to any situation. And I have to say, I have tried this and practiced this, and it really opens up a whole new way of communicating with other people. And once we understand our fall and rise, which is the reckoning we talked about, own our story and take responsibility for our emotions, which is the rumble, then it's time for the revolution. And that is where practice becomes process. And true change begins to happen. So we'll dig into the third part of Rising Strong tomorrow. But today, practice writing, practice answering those 3 questions, 3 statements, and start using the phrase, the story I'm making up is, or the story I'm telling myself is, in your daily life. I will be so curious to know if it's been as powerful for you as it has been for me in learning how to say this. So go out there and make it today great, guys. We're rising strong after crashes. Talk tomorrow.